We now turn to South America within the New World. We'll be covering material primarily from Peru in the time period from Chavin to the Inca. It is a good point in history to be viewing Peruvian archaeology and art because recently a number of extraordinary finds have been discovered in Peru that have helped us to interpret the myriad examples of ceramic pieces and also textile fragments that survive that we have. For example, the piece in our lower right, which comes from Moche culture, we're going to be looking at them shortly. The objects that the Moche leave behind, we've never been able to put into a context. We haven't been able to interpret them, at least with any confidence, but recently a number of burials have revealed that in the ceramics, it does appear that the Moche artists were actually depicting human events. And we can say that with some confidence because if you look at the headpiece right here, and this is a front piece or a frontlet that's attached to a headdress, we actually have these now. They've been excavated from burials, and you're looking at one obviously smack dab in the center of the screen. This is a divine being. It is a supernatural, and we can recognize that immediately by the overlapping canine teeth, the rather prominent teeth on the face of this kind of grimacing figure. Those canines also, I think, suggest a link to the traditions of Chavin. So we are continuing some of the early horizon ideas in future periods, and the Moche, we'll say, is beyond the early horizon. This divine being must have been associated with the sea in some way because his body is that of an octopus, so he is definitely a composite. And the terminating forms, like here's one of them, is a catfish. This is also a pretty amazing piece of art, very skillfully crafted from a sheet of gold. It also is another sample of artworks that have been the subject of looting. This particular piece was part of a looter's hoard. It actually shows up in the late 1980s in London, where it was tracked and it was actually returned to Peru. So an act of repatriation took place. But it is one of the curses of Peruvian archaeology at the same time because of the extent of damage that has already taken place to looting. These are the maps that we're going to be working with to give you a sense of the region. We have just finished looking at Mesoamerica, Middle America, between North and South America. We're going to go down here now and take a look primarily at Peru. And you can see the extent of Peru over here, right next to Bolivia, and a number of the archaeological events that take place in Peru do in fact connect with Bolivia. This is a location that shares a number of beliefs with Mesoamerica and also with North America. And now is the time to make the point that, particularly because we're at the southernmost point of the New World, that there are some very consistent traditions that seem to be drawn from the Old World. And that indeed seems to be the main source for why they are continually shared in the New World. The land bridge, this is at least one of the ways in which, the primary, we think, ways in which humans came from the Old World. We have here Alaska, and over here we have Siberia, and in the period of the Ice Age we do think that there was actually a bridge between them that was created by the frozen waters, making it possible for people to move primarily on foot from Siberia to the New World, but bringing with them their ideas and their belief systems and also their technologies. And that appears to have permeated North America, Mesoamerica, and South America. Now it is possible that people arrived in other migrations as well, and archaeologists are looking into that today, but we're still thinking the primary movement of peoples did occur from Siberia and to the New World. One of the things that is important that we can document, particularly important for South America, is this. We have already talked about shamanism. It is alive and well and very, very important in Peruvian past and in Peruvian culture even today. I have on the left an example of a live and well and practicing Siberian shaman. So you can get a look at the tradition that still exists in Siberia today as well. In addition to that, I have for you in the upper right a shaman in Peru, in the highlands in particular, uh, and his kit. One of the things that we notice is that the shamans tend to all share certain implements that they bring generally to curing or to healing. That is going to be true for our Peruvian shaman at the top and our Siberian shaman in the lower left. This is an ancient tradition, and I would like you to see now a ceramic vessel, lower right, two views, and this again comes from the Moche on the north coast of Peru. And what this shows is a Moche shamaness, and I do want to stress this is a female shaman. The shamaness wears a mask or perhaps is a composite figure already having transformed into an owl, but the face of the figure, human body, has in fact the face of the owl. Why an owl? Well, an owl is a bird of night. It flies incredibly well and powerfully, and it also is known for its extraordinary vision, in particular night vision. And that would reference well the vision that a shaman would have as he or she travels between the realms. Okay, what that tells us is we have here a significant emphasis on shamanism, and when you have shamanism, you have to expect a layered or a tiered universe because the shaman is traveling along an axis between multiple realms to bring back information and often to bring back healing information for the living in this realm. That's going to be true for our Moche shamaness, and we will try and look at her later. She is in the process of consuming. You can actually see it in her hand. This is a small vessel. If it were in front of you, you could see it in her hand. She has a piece of San Pedro cactus. We're going to look at that later because it's a very important and very powerful hallucinogen that is often used in Peru, historically as well as in the present day. So our shamaness is moving from this realm of reality to another, and perhaps, we aren't sure, but perhaps to cure this patient who's located over here. We also know that she has some lime cones in a box for purposes of purification, and that she has in front of her 4 strings of seeds that come from the Amazon. The Amazon was considered to be a place of potent spiritual power. It was a place of herbs and also of hallucinogens, but also of amazing and powerful animals. So it was often referenced by the shaman as a way to gain authority and power and travel to the next world. Okay, more pictures of contemporary shamans in Peru. This is very much alive and well. All of them are in the act of creating a ritual bundle, and that is typical of the practice of shamanism. This ritual bundle will be folded up. This is a shaman's cloth right here. It will be folded up with objects that have been placed on it, and it will be burned as an offering, frequently to Mother Earth or Mama Pacha. The shaman engaged lower left, right over here, in a ritual action is actually in a healing activity. And the 2 shamans at the bottom that I'm showing us, I'd like you to see that they are consuming coca leaves. The coca plant is a sacred plant in Peru. It is associated throughout history with ability to heal. It is also used as an offering, as I suspect it might be in the lower 2 images, and it is also commonly used by Peruvians as well as tourists to Peru today because it helps you to feel better in high altitude conditions. It also helps you if you're tired, and it basically helps you to do the work that you need to do in the higher altitudes of the Andes. A quick word about the stereotypes coming from European scholars in particular. In reference to whether or not Peru would qualify as a high civilization. If we attempt to look at Peru from that perspective, it's going to keep us from understanding the Andes, which are very, very different from European cultures. The same is going to be true for North America when we get there as well, and we'll certainly encounter some of the prejudices, the North American, European prejudices against Native Americans. One of the reasons for the dim view of Andean high civilization is that ceramics as a material, as an art form, tend to be devalued. It's probably only today in postmodern period that we're starting to see the real potential of what can be achieved with ceramic creations. The folks in Peru also built with stone or adobe, and again, those are materials that did not tend to impress the Europeans or perhaps the European conquerors. They were also not impressed by the lack of metalwork. The Peruvians, like the rest of North America, did not come up with the use of bronze or of iron. They did just fine with stone and obsidian, and that would be the three slides over on the left. And again, they did not use the wheel. They, like Veracruz, and I've included our little kitty cat object from Veracruz here, they knew about the wheel, and we do have some perhaps children's toys, but not as many as we find at Veracruz. Again, it is the lack of animals to pull a wheeled vehicle, and you can see this is a llama, a herd of llamas, with an Andean woman. And in general, the indigenous people come in a little shorter than I am. So you can reckon that that llama is not a very big animal. It can carry a pack on its side or its back, but it's not going to carry a person, and it's also not going to carry a cart. So this is an entirely different geographic area, and consequently the culture that emerges here is also dramatically different from what we would find in Europe, and we simply can't apply the same standards, the same rules. So let's take a closer look at the geography.